What's going on, everybody? Good evening to you this evening, all that good stuff. Want to first welcome you to what we like to call "It's Still About Us," a conversation dealing with civic engagement, talking about several different topics tonight. First and foremost, my name is Collins Pettaway III. Excited to be here with you on this evening. I have the esteemed pleasure to serve as the Vice Basileus for the Omega Chi chapter for Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated here in Selma, Alabama, serving Selma, Dallas County, Perry County, as well as Wilcox County, and also the surrounding Black Belt as well. So first and foremost, just excited to bring you all into this conversation. For those of you who just may not know, Omega Psi Phi is a Black Greek letter fraternity founded on November the 17th, 1911 on the campus of Howard University, where our motto is friendship is essential to the soul. Our cardinal principles are manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. And we're so excited to that continue those principles and operating on those principles tonight with an important conversation. I'm not going to keep you all waiting. I'm not going to belabor the point for this evening because we've got some excellent conversations that we're looking forward to having tonight. So excited to bring on my brother, my friend, and of course, this gentleman has been doing so much amazing work, not just within the state of Alabama, not just within the Black Belt, but really all over. Working with one of the premier organizations that we all know that's held near and dear to our hearts, which is of course Black Voters Matter. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest for the evening that I have the pleasure of talking with, the statewide regional organizer for the state of Alabama, Mr. Ronald James Jr., or of course better known as RJ. Oh, I think I just lost him. Okay, I was just trying to bring him on, and I think I may have just lost him. Anyway, while he's trying to go ahead and get his connection back up and running, first and foremost, again, super excited just to have him on tonight. We've got some great conversations that we're looking at having, and of course, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is understanding civic engagement and also understanding as far as the election. I'm waiting for him to come back on so that we can actually continue that conversation that we're having on tonight. In the meantime, while we're here, if you all would just take this time to follow us. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we are on X, formerly known as Twitter, of course, and you can just follow us at Omega Chi Qs. Again, that's OmegaChiQues, Omega Chi Qs. Once again, feel free to give us a follow. Feel free to follow us. You can also find several of our content, things that we're doing, things that we have been doing this week. So excited just to kind of get into the weeds of some of the things. I'm not getting into the weeds, but we've had an amazing week thus far with our achievement week. On Sunday, we had the opportunity to hear from our amazing district representative, Brother Christopher Brooks, where he, of course, came in and spoke with us about our theme of returning to brotherhood while uplifting our community. We got a chance to serve our students with donuts with dads today and of course tonight. We're looking forward to continue the conversation. I think my guest just may have come back, so we're going to go ahead and see by bringing him back on today. All right, let's try that again. Take two. How you doing, brother?
Man, brother, I am good, blessed, and honored to be here with you guys tonight, man. I'm sorry we're having a little technical difficulties, but listen, the devil is a liar. We here.
Oh, oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
sir.
I forgot you're a man of God. You know,
Yeah.
I quickened a little bit. Yeah. So before we just kind of get into just sort of our conversation as far as for tonight, for the people that are on the live, can you just tell them a little bit about who you are?
Man, you saying that I'm a man of God pretty much sums it up. I'm a man after God on his heart. I am a grassroots organizer here in the state of Alabama. I currently serve as the state organizer for Black Matter here in the state of Alabama and a regional organizer. I am a minister. I am a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I am an advocate, activist, and I'm just someone who wants to see Alabama push forward in a positive direction.
I love that. I love that, RJ. And just of course, As always, if you want to have any questions, any thoughts, anything to add to this conversation tonight, just please feel free to just drop them in the comments. Let us know you're watching, and also take a moment and just share this live because there's so much that's happening. I'll be honest with you, RJ. Just both you and I, of course, been in this organizing political field for a long time.
Mhm.
Everywhere our heads turn, there's just so much that's going on. And so just I kind of want to just dive into the biggest thing right now, which everybody is talking about, is of course these elections. We literally just closed out qualifying for our local elections down. And so of course just thinking ahead. And I even hate to ask this question because we both know that polls don't vote in elections. They surely do not win elections. So I even hate to ask it, but I have to because I think this is a very important topic that sometimes people are sort of I think that they are taking lightly. And the fact is, we're a little bit of we're less than a year out now from our next presidential election, and there are several polls out there that's showing that young voters, particularly young Black voters, are becoming disinterested and disengaged with the political process, and could possibly endanger our turnout efforts of trying to get people out to the polls. What do you make of that? And do you think that we may be facing possibly a voting deficit in 24?
I think we're always in a position of facing a voting deficit, especially when we don't have people like you and myself who are organizers who are out pushing the agenda and reminding people that votes matter, right? And especially that Black voters matter across this nation. I think we're in a deficit when it comes to us not explaining and making people understand, regular day people understand the connectivity of voting and how it affects them on their day-to-day living. And with those things not happening, without educating, without informing, without reminding, without knocking drags, without bringing these connectivities to the people that it matters the most, yes, we are facing a deficit. Because when people are faced with a choice of trying to go vote or worried about how they're going to put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and feed their families every day, you find yourself in a deficit, right? You find yourself find people unconnected and not concerned about what's happening around them because they are faced with what most Black people live with in America, and that's survival mode. And so, understanding and knowing that we have to connect the pieces to remind people that to get out of survival mode, one of the answers to that is voting.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Great, great, great response to that. I think though, and I think I'd be remiss if I just sort of just didn't kind of point out the fact that I think there's a lot of young voters, people our age, and I talk to them all the time. There seems to be this thing of distrust,
Mhm.
whereas, I could point out, I don't know, 5 different things that may be going right for our community, but then your average voter may only be focused, they just may be focused on the one or two,
Mhm.
and sometimes that can possibly discourage that can put a damper on the entire conversation. And so what do you think it's going to take for us to be able to re-engage those voters, to get them to the polls, to make them feel like their vote will matter when they go to the
Yeah,
polls?
yeah, absolutely. Great rebuttal. I, my answer to that is this is back to my first answer. It's the connectivity. And us understanding how voting relates to us on our day to day. And so one of those things is some of the training that I've been doing, especially with barbershops across the nation. It's power mapping. We have to understand where the power lays and who we have to target on the day to day issues. Because when we don't do that, when we aren't educated on who we need to attack for the problems that are concerning us the most, then we're misled, right? We're mad about potholes in our streets, and so we want to be mad with the mayor, and that's not the mayor's position when we should be targeting our
Mm.
city council, right? Our grandma, big mama, mad about her light bill and her gas bill, and so she's mad with everybody in the city when she should be mad with her public service commission. right? And so we have to dive down in some deep voter education and power mapping in our communities. Who do we hold responsible? Right? Who should we be voting for? Who should we be electing to put in these positions that are going to speak for our likeness and our image and the concerns that we have in our community? But not only that, Collins, we got to hold them accountable. Yeah, it's good for me to have a frat brother and vote for him and get him into office, and because it looks good and it feels good. But am I holding him to accountable? Am I holding his feet to the fire? So many times we see in this country and in this nation that we vote people in, they come to our communities, they bring the t-shirts and they bring the little hurrah band and they get our votes and they make these promises, but we don't hold their feet to the fire, right? We don't hold them accountable. We don't remind them that their job is on the line and we determine whether they get their job in re-election or not. And so for young people, for us, we have to understand the power that we have as voters. We got to understand the power that we control someone's salary. We control the way that things look in our neighborhoods, our community. We control what's in our community. We control what stores, what businesses, what we patronize in our community, and we control who put those people in those businesses in our community. And so we got to know where the power lies. We got to know who to slap when it's time to slap somebody. If you get my drill.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I think that's important. You hit something that kind of goes into the idea of what we talk about. Just understanding there's so many voters and so many people now of voting age. And
Mhm.
I've had the blessed opportunity to now to step into the realm of education as far as organized education, teaching part time at Selma High School. And so I
Mhm.
engage with so many seniors, and a lot of them, they don't even know some of the basic things when it comes to civics, such
Right.
as, our branches of government. Also, as far as knowing that it's the mayor that makes certain decisions, but it's the council that creates the policy, that
Mhm.
approves the policy, that approves the funding. It's the council that balances out the
Mhm.
mayor's power, while the mayor has to carry out the day-to-day operations in so many different aspects. And so, kind of stepping into that civic engagement, which is why we're here. How important is just regular civic engagement, period? Not even just for the young voters, but just for the voters that have been kind of floating along that may not even know how this works.
Yeah, I mean, it literally determines your day to day life. It determines what your neighborhood looks like. It determines what you see, what's in your grocery stores. It determines whether you have clean water or not. It determines everything. The things that affect you the most is controlled and determined by your local government,
I
right?
tell people all the time that politics is life and voting is everything. Like
Oh
they argue
yes.
with me about that, but I tell them all the time, like literally, like from the clothes we wear,
Hmm.
this nice Apple Watch, the
Hmm.
food that I just bought, everything is determined by our vote. Like people don't
Right.
get that.
Right. But it is. One of my greatest mentors is Miss Doris Crenshaw.
Mm,
Um, a living legend, just a living legend. And she, when I first got into this organizing game, into being civically engaged, the
yeah.
first thing she said, voting matters all the way down to the toilet paper that you use in your
Mm,
bath.
mm.
It never really hit me until we really got to really got to work in this thing and started to realize about how everything is controlled down to the taxes that you pay, how much taxes that you pay, and what companies are literally putting the toilet paper in certain stores in my
Mhm,
community, right? And
mhm.
so, man, local government, local voting is much more important. And I hate to tell people that, but it's much more important than running to the polls every 4 years to vote for your president. It's much more important than getting out and trying to get a Kamala Harris in, or Joe Biden in, or whoever it is that you may choose, right? Because the federal mandate only goes so far. And if we know Alabama and its history, as Alabama, it has butted heads with federal mandate all the way up to 2023 with redistricting of maps, right? And so, but our local voting, who voting, the mayor in Selma, right? What decisions that he makes, what decisions that the things that happen that come to Selma, the city council, right? Those things, the business, the economy of Selma happens through the local voting in Selma, right? And so when we complain about certain things, yeah, Selma has been punished. Selma has been discriminated since 1965, right? Historically,
Before
even before then, right?
that, right?
But after the great work that happened down there, y'all really pissed some white folks off, right? And
And
so,
their descendants apparently too.
yes, yeah. So, but it's controlled by the local voting,
Right.
right?
That's right.
And who you putting in to truly represents you, because our folks that's our skin color ain't our kinfolk, right? Let me
Hmm.
let me be the first to say that. I'm gonna say it on the show, kind of, so you ain't got to say it, right? You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Just
I don't
because,
mind saying that. I mean, I don't mind saying that either. I'll
listen,
scan they can't vote.
hey,
That
what day they told Craig, I got to live here. You don't, right? Let me say it, right?
that's fine. Folks in Selma already know I don't care.
But right along with you, then so all black folks ain't voting in our interests, and it's
That's
our
right.
responsibility when we find black folks that ain't voting in the interests of black folks to remove that black person from position, right?
And I
So
think that's something we do have to get over. We have to. I think we have to get past that. I think, and I will say that is something that I see a lot in our communities here. We immediately want to vote, and I'm not saying I'm a, and I want you to know I'm a huge proponent of everything black. I think Issa Rae
absolutely,
said I want everybody black for sure,
black
but
and
I think we have to not always confuse our blackness and allow our blackness to be a replacement for the lack of intelligence,
right.
especially when we are positioned and we can be in a space to where we can know better. When you know better, you're supposed to do better.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you do better, that's how we evoke change. And so, listen, you about to get me to a whole tangent talking about we talking about self. I ain't even gonna do that to myself. But you hit on something I want to kind of shift gears for a moment, talking about the 2024, not 2024, the current redistricting battle that
Mhm,
we've been in. And a lot of people don't realize this, but we've been in this redistricting battle since January of 2022,
mhm,
when the courts stated that the 2021 redistricting that was done after the census was illegal, and they were supposed to make that change then, and it did not happen because the Alabama Supreme Court got in the way and
mhm.
did what they did. And so I think there's a huge history behind that. But kind of before we even get into the weeds of now, where we are now, just from your standpoint, being someone that emphasizes the importance of black voters and black votes, how important is it that Alabama have more than just one minority district when you're talking about a larger voice, larger opportunities? How important is that for us? Because we've
Oh,
only always had that one major district for a long time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So black people in America are still fighting to be black people in America,
Yeah,
to be considered as full citizens, right? And so, if you go back to the genesis of this country's and this country and in the establishment of, it was built off no taxation without representation,
that's
right?
right.
And so, after 1965, and we received the Voters' Rights Act, um, black people have still not been properly represented based upon population in the number of black people, especially here in the state of Alabama, right? And so when we talk about their fair representation, someone who equally fairly represents us when it comes to federal funding, federal mandates that come down to the state of Alabama. This congressional district is so important. When we talk about infrastructure, when we talk about the expansion of Medicaid, when we talk about wideband, and then environmental justice issues that we face in our communities all across the state, it is so intricate that we have that fair representation in Congress, right? People who are going to make decisions and make laws and pass laws that strategically affect black people, especially in the wire grass and the black belt, but all over the state of Alabama. And based upon the census, and the census tells us that these are people, these are citizens. These are people who pay taxes. These are people who are law-abiding citizens. These are people who go to work every day and are able to be calculated and accounted for here in this state. These are people who pay taxes. These are the people that we accumulate millions and billions and trillions of dollars from a
Yeah.
year, that do not have the proper representation in Congress. And so it's so important that now, living in the state of Alabama, which is, I think, maybe it's now considered the second most racist state behind Mississippi in the union. It's important that we get this win to have that proper representation. So goes Alabama, so goes the South, so goes the nation. And
And I think we're seeing that too. I could definitely say we're seeing that with so many other states kind of, now following suit. I believe Louisiana, I think
yes,
recently is now they're in the same battle. North Carolina,
yes,
they're stepping into the same.
Georgia,
Right, we're
Georgia,
about to see Georgia,
Tennessee,
and I
yeah, yeah.
think we're going to definitely start seeing a lot more of that adopted. And which I'll be honest with you, just full disclosure, I was very surprised when
Mhm.
it came all the way to out to the United States Supreme Court, with the Supreme Court that just struck down Roe v. Wade over a year ago. I'll be honest with you, and this is just, and I'm usually an optimistic person, but I just was not confident. I
Well, I tell
wasn't.
you, Colin, it goes back to voting, though. It literally goes back to voting. And in this case, it was beneficial to vote in a
Mhm.
president that was more, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't use the word liberal, but more on the side of um forward progress,
An
right? And
advocate for those affected by
yes, yeah.
by. I
And
get it.
so his appointment of Katanji was a big move to the you know what I'm saying, to this case being won, having someone now that also look like us. And back to what I'm saying, she's not the first black on the Supreme Court. All skin color folks ain't your kin folk. Let's go back to that. But having her on the Supreme Court and having her to send down her decision and her opinion from the first time we went was a big move. But also us doing due diligence here in Alabama, and we have to pat ourselves on the back. It was participating in the census,
Yeah.
because we could have had an opinion all we want to, but the numbers and the facts stood behind the case that was already presented, right?
I gotta pat. I'm not gonna lie, RJ. I gotta pat myself on the back just a little bit because I was one of the partnership specialists for the 2020 census that worked in Alabama. We worked hard. I gotta be honest with you. I remember especially kind of the way that at the beginning of COVID, when we were sort of kind of hitting balls running, and then all of a sudden COVID hit and everything stopped, and we
Yeah.
weren't sure how we were still going to push this thing forward. And I just remember just the meetings and the Zoom calls and having to travel, the blitzes, going to different spending nights in different places across the state, traveling. Everybody in Selma called me the census man at one point because of the fact that
Right.
I was going to everybody's council meetings. I was going to all the businesses, the schools, setting up tables, doing everything we could to educate the people because Alabama was actually in danger of losing a congressional district at one
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when we were told that that was going to happen, I was like, great. But then it came out, oh, well, we're supposed to, oh, so we're supposed to have. You're supposed to redraw the lines that
Right.
actually, fall in
Not
favor.
only not only are we not losing one, but we're actually supposed to gain one.
Right,
And I applaud you, brother. I give you your roses while you can smell them, and to everybody who
man.
done that due diligence in that work, because it's
And it was a
grassroots
team.
work like that. Yeah.
And it was a team effort. It's not just myself. It was so many people that worked that worked together, and then a collaborative effort of the schools, the local elected officials. I think if you ever want to see people come together on something, it was that census effort because of the
Yes.
funding and also the representation of what it meant for schools,
Yes.
because that's what it was about, honestly.
Yeah.
And you're probably the first person that brought back the fact that the census is the reason why we're
I
at this
think it's
point,
important.
for sure.
It's important, and it reminds us in the next decade when it comes around again of why it's important that we should do it right. I know it's tedious. It feels minute, and the crazy thing about it is that the things that we find that we feel are so less important are the things that are most important to us and affect us the most. Right. Let's go back to
Mm,
local vote.
right.
Let's go back to local voting. When we feel like, you know what I'm saying, it's not important that we go out for these elections. And we don't know what the heck a public service commission is, right? Those are the things that are affecting us the most. And it's strategically put that it's not advertised, that it's not pushed in our face, that we're not reminded of, like we're all reminded of the president or other elections, right? That money isn't passed down to those promotions, right? It's strategically done, and especially here in the state of Alabama.
I it has always been those small positions like that, and honestly, public service commission is not a small position because that's those are the positions that determine your utility bills and
Absolutely.
you know the things that affect us directly. It has always just not, it has always been an uncomfortable thing for me, the fact that we don't take that lightly, that we immediately look at the president and we stop. We look at the governor and we stop. And there is so much power in these local positions. And
Yes.
believe it or not, those who tend to vote against our interests, those who tend to champion against the things that actually are beneficial toward us, they know that.
Hmm.
They know that.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think I think we have to do it better, and that's why I like when we have these type of conversations, RJ. I like when we can sit down and go not just here, but go into the churches. Have these conversations in the barbershops, in the schools, because I think that's where it starts. That's where it's going to start. To that point, because we're kind of at a turning point. What else do you think it is going to take to try to be able to get more people engaged when it comes to the subject matters like redistricting, the election, even what's happening overseas with in Israel and Gaza. This is
Mhm.
important information that does matter to us,
Right.
believe it or not. And I don't think
Right.
people realize that.
It's as simple as connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Brother. When we understand that Congress votes on whether we go to war or not, then we understand why it's important that we vote a second a second congressional have a second congressional district where we vote somebody in that's in our likeness with our mindset to cast that vote, whether it's yay or nay, right? It's important that we understand that when it comes down to federal funding that comes for education, but also federal funding that comes for infrastructure, federal funding that comes for environmental justice issues, like people in Lowndes County who still struggle with sewage issues in their community. Their kids outside in the yard playing in septic sewage and are getting all kind of diseases and bronchitis and all kind of breathing problems that they're having that we're seeing across the board. When we understand that some people have to drive 50 to 60 miles to the nearest hospital to get medical assistance, that all this stuff comes from, and it's a connecting dot. That's why we have to get out and vote. And for the fight that we have given towards to get this second congressional district, it's gonna break my heart. But I don't believe it's gonna happen. But it would break my heart to see us do the fight that we did to win this district, but we don't show up to the polls on election day to vote for that district. And that's my biggest fear, right? My biggest fear is that the work that has been put down by people like you who got out and struggled during COVID when people were locked in their homes and safe and scared to go out, and you were having people knocking doors and having people fill out census, that work is going to be gone in vain, right? Because we still have to vote. Just because we have a majority district doesn't mean that we have the district won, right? Because the counterparts are still gonna go vote. They're
Yeah.
still gonna
Yeah.
show up. It's still
Hmm.
someone who's qualified for their representation. They're still gonna go vote, right?
Right.
We don't vote, we don't win. Pretty much as simple as that. And then it would have been for not, we would have been given our adversary a leg up instead of giving them a punch and a blow down, because we would have given them another chance to keep black people in Alabama in the conditions that they are, right? To keep us people in the wiregrass and in the black belt and in Mobile County and still in areas of Montgomery, all over District 2, in the same positions that they were, if not worse, before,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Neglected, overlooked, right? And so it's important that we show up. Not only that we show up, but we show out in a major way. Which I'm gonna lead to something else, Collins, because I know you don't mind speaking against the quota, but I'm also mad that we got, what was it, 22 people that's jumped in this race to run for this position. Now you listen, I'm gonna just bring it up. I'm gonna tell it like my pastor said, right?
I can
Um,
speak. I'll talk. You know what? It's not my congressional district, so I'm glad to talk about it too.
it's mine. It's mine. I gladly live in this congressional district, District 2, and
Oh
so
man.
it boils me, right? But
I
that
think
speaks
it
to me.
goes back to, but let's be honest. Do you think that I think it also kind of goes back to the fact that, and this is honestly to me, I believe this is, we always talk about the blowback of white folks to black folks based off of what happened in 1965 and how,
Mhm.
but we don't talk enough about, I think, the blowback from black folks to black folks.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that
No.
trauma, that fear. I think we have there. I think there, if you want my, I'll be honest with you, and this is my
It's your
first time
show.
talking about this. I
It's your
haven't
show,
done,
Doc.
I haven't researched anything. This is me. I don't have any notes, nothing. I'm talking straight off the cuff. I honestly think there is some. I think there is fear involved. I think a lot of those people who are running, they honestly truly believe that they don't trust anybody else to do the job that they can do because of the fact that we have had such a history of being screwed over so many times, even by presidents. And so,
Mhm.
because that happens, I think that there is this fear that it can't be them, it has to be me. God said it was me. Did God really tell you that? And so, you know, we have to I think we have to analyze stuff for what it is. I was kind of shocked to see that. I will say I'm glad that my frat brother decided to not jump in that race.
Mhm.
May read.
Mhm.
I'll say that. Um, you know, there are several other people I've seen that's running, and you know, I'm wow, yeah.
I'll tell you this much, because you put it kind of nice the way you said it.
I tried to,
I don't,
but
I don't think I
you
don't
you
think
can
it's
say
a.
whatever you want. You say
Oh
whatever
yeah,
you want.
if anybody know me, I don't think that it's a fear of only I can do it. I think we have a power hunger
Mm,
amongst a lot of
mm.
leadership here in the state of Alabama. Um, and I can really leave it at that. There's a hunger for power, and when we understand that for the betterment. I'm pretty sure that Ralph Abernathy at times felt and thought that he could do it better than Dr. King. But they understood the greater purpose. Let me play my role, play my position. We got a bigger problem than Congress here in the state of Alabama. Yeah, we need another black Congress representative. We do. But more important than that, we need more representation in the state Senate than we do in any
So
place else.
so there is a thirst for power to be
Absolutely.
able to be the one to make the decisions.
Absolutely. To rub elbows, to have a place of relevance, right?
Sounds like it sounds like white supremacy.
In a lot of ways. And we don't talk about that. See, you being missing out here, way. See, we're gonna have to have a conversation offline. I don't know if the people ready for it, but but man, and I'll say it as sweet as this: we have to understand sometime that we are the worst people for ourselves
Yeah, yeah,
because of a trained mentality that we have as black people that has been passed down generation to generation to generation, and it's still relevant amongst us, because we see it today that we have politicians and people that's supposed to be in leadership that cross our people, that turn their backs on our people,
hmm
um, for deals, for buddies, to sit in rooms or be in part of clubs, right?
yeah,
Because they don't believe in the hope. They don't believe in the progression that can be made, right? And so they
right.
get into these positions with no true belief that they can really help the people. And so when the tide rides above them, they flee, right? And they start to make deals across the aisle, and you hear all these, oh well, we got to work across the aisle and work with other people to do this and to do that. When really they're selling us up the creek, right?
Mm.
So that's why I say that's why we have to be sure that we are electing people who are going to represent us, and people that we're going to hold their feet to the fire after they're elected. And
Let's
I'm gonna say this to anybody who may be listening, who to jump in the race. If you ain't been out here in these streets, if you have not been an advocate for people in the wiregrass, for people in the black belt, for people in District 2, for people who are grassroots organizers who have been doing the work, who have been doing the due diligence of making sure that people are straight. If you went down here when the storms came through and tore up Selma and in different places across the Black Belt and the Wiregrass, when if you had not been down here being advocates for people who are dealing with sewage issues and problems in their home, if you have not been down here being an advocate for people who still don't have wideband and internet access, if you have not been down here with people who deal with issues where family members die before they can ever make it to a hospital or a facility to get medical help because of the lack of Medicaid expansion, then you shouldn't be jumping in the race. You shouldn't be in this race. You're flawed, and the people are going to see through it. It's going to be the people that judge it, and I hate to see that this race is split in so many ways, and we'll allow somebody else to come in and swoop away with the position. But I
We
believe,
already know that the vote is going to be split. I think it's not going to take a rocket scientist to know that, unfortunately, because of the fact that there's so many people. What I would have loved to have seen in that congressional district 2 seat, what I would have loved to have seen more so of a coalition collaboration in the way that everybody came together to fight for the minority district, the way that everybody came together to fight for, some of those devastating bills that keep showing up on the legislative calendar, the way that we all come together for the same thing. I would love to have seen that when it was time to qualify. I kept hearing all of these names pop up But then certain people, they came out and said, I'm not gonna run. I'm not gonna run. I'm not gonna run. I said, oh, good, good. That means that everybody's kind of, stepping in. And I would go and I would check the qualification. I would check the qualifying website always just to kind of see, okay, this person
I was
qualifies.
I was nosy. I was being nosy. I want to see and the nerve.
Listen, when I tell you, I think that last day, I think it may have been Friday, and I counted. I was like, 3, 4. I just couldn't. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
I
it's
just.
like, well, man, what we have to understand is, man, when we do when that happens, that splits fundraising, that splits support, that splits the true education that needs to get out. Because when you're on a campaign and you're running a race, it's not all just about getting people to vote for you, but it's also about getting people to understand the issues and why we need to come together around the issues to get the best candidate. And when we do that, we got everybody in. Everybody got their own platform. Everybody got an agenda. It splits and it taints the vote, and that's when
I
we
think
get into the issue of black voters saying that their vote doesn't matter.
I think the biggest thing that is honestly disheartening, that I'm afraid, I'm praying it doesn't happen, man. I'm praying, but is that when you see so many people, and I'll be honest, Selma was like that. I remember Selma had 12 candidates running for mayor in 2020. Never forget it. That was the most craziest thing in my life. 12 people. Why were 12 people running for mayor? Why do 12 people, some of these 12 people had we've never seen in 10 years, and then you popped out and decided to come on that ballot. The concern that I have is that if Johnny, Billy, and Susie all are running for the same position, and if Billy wins, what happens if Johnny and Susie's supporters don't want to go back to the polls to support Billy when he is facing a real opposition
Yeah,
because of the fact that nobody decided they wanted to come together? And I think that is kind of lost upon us when understanding civics. Civics isn't always just about winners and losers. It's honestly about ensuring that the best decisions for the betterment of the people are made, and understanding what that process looks like. Because sometimes it doesn't always have to be you in the forefront. It doesn't, at least I don't think so. That's
it
just me.
doesn't. It doesn't. It
Right.
doesn't. It does not. It does not. There, it doesn't, and that's why it makes no sense. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely something, man, when you think about that. And one thing I do want to mention, because we're talking about Black Voters Matter, but I would love for you kind of, and this is sort of kind of, we can use this as a turning, as a way to kind of step ourselves out. I would love for you just to kind of talk a little bit about the actual organization Black Voters Matter, and just sort of the role that you all have played so far, and what you all are looking forward to in the upcoming election.
absolutely. So Black Voters Matter, man. We are. I always look at it and say that this organization is a unicorn in the desert. We are a capacity building organization. And what we do is we come to community to uplift and support the agendas of those communities, whether it's around social justice issues, whether it's around environmental justice issues, whether it's around civic engagement issues, right? We're not a campaign and electoral organization. But our motto is that Black voters matter 365 days out the year. And so we're not just concerned about all the ways you get into the poll and voting, but we're concerned about how you're doing. We've done a mass campaign this year with our partners, our grassroots organizations all over the state, where we did issue mining. And in that issue mining, we just got on the phone and we called Black people and just checked in. how you doing? What's going on, man? What's the issues that are plaguing your community, and how do you feel about it, right? What can we help? How can we be support? And we took those issues down, and we shared them with organizations across the state, with all of our partners, and so that we could do some intricate organizing and diving into those issues, whether they were housing issues, whether they were what I'm saying, healthcare issues, whether they were, like I said, environmental justice issues, so that we could organize around those issues that affect people day to day. Because once again, it's hard to get somebody out and ask them about voting when they're dealing with real life issues right in front of their face. I'm trying to talk to you about voting, but on your front door is an eviction notice. That's a problem, right?
Mm.
And I ain't studying no voting right now. I'm studying how where I'm gonna be at the next day. And so some of the work that we have done, man, just supporting this redistricting case to its fullest, with the plaintiffs, with partnering with Alabama Ford, who was one of the table partners in the table for the state of Alabama when it comes to civic engagement. It has been a tremendous effort, and we are reaping the fruits of that labor now. But the work hasn't stopped. The work doesn't stop. We're about turning people out to the polls once again. Black voters matter. Also reminding people that, what I'm saying, our greatest strength, voting is one of our weapons, but our greatest strength is love. And with love, that creates the ultimate power, right? And in love and through love and with love, we can change things, right? And it starts by loving. And that starts by loving on people with day-to-day issues and meeting them where they at with their issues and showing them that we love them, that is proud to be black, that you can be black and proud, that you have power, and one of your greatest strengths of changing your predicament lies in voting.
All right, everybody. Listen, I don't think there's anything else to be said at this point with this. Um, your greatest strength lies in your vote. My grandmother would always say, "My vote is my voice, and ain't
Ain't
nobody gonna speak for me
yeah,
but me."
yeah.
And I think, and at the end of the day, that is all that matters at this point. We can talk about so many other issues. We can talk about so many things. There's so many solutions. But at the end of the day, the solution always surrounds the vote. And the one thing, RJ, that I've always loved and respected about Black Voters Matter, not from just from yourself, other persons who have worked with Black Voters Matter. I've had the opportunity to work with Black Voters Matter years ago as well. That's, Tasha and Cliff are near and dear friends from Selma to my heart with me. And one thing that I know that they operate in is with love. And that is
So
one of the things sometimes that we miss. Sometimes one of the most transformative moments that I've always remembered with Black Voters Matter was, I think they were Black Voters Matter was involved in a conversation with Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club,
mhm.
and they were having a conversation about voting. And I remember Tasha said she was asked the question by someone about, um, "I'm not going to vote," and Tasha said, "That's fine, great." And then we had a conversation about it because she said at the end of the day, your vote is important, but at the end of the day, I want you to know that I still love you.
Mhm.
I'm not going to change my love for you because that's what we're missing, I think,
Right.
in all of this. And so, everybody, first and foremost, again, thank you all so much just for participating, just for tuning in. I see the views of participating in the conversation on tonight. This live is going to be up again. Feel free to tune in with us. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Omega Chi Q's, OmegaChiQues. You laughed about that because sidebar, RJ, I have not updated my app yet. It is still Twitter on my phone. It's forever gonna be Twitter.
Ah!
That bird is still blue.
Hey, man.
I have not updated anything, and I won't. But in all seriousness, everybody, thank you so much thank you all so much, RJ. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for
Listen,
participating in this conversation tonight. This very necessary, well needed conversation. I believe education is key. And we have to continue educating our people. We have to continue engaging with our people, being sure that they have the tools that they need and that they are locked and loaded with information.
Yes.
Huge point. Again, everybody, once again, you have been listening to It's Still About Us, a conversation around civic engagement. Thank you all so much. We are out. You all have a great night.